Even after all of the nerfs of 727D, Phoenix is still one of the most picked supports with the highest win rate in pubs. Even with the nerfs, GH has a much higher win rate than the average Phoenix, and we're here to figure out what is he doing differently. Hey guys, 4 months since I've exercised, so I drink Coke Zero to compensate the calories, continuing with GH's Phoenix week, and today we're going to dive deep on his decision making in the mid game, starting with the spell on Phoenix that most people get wrong, and it's Supernova. To prove my point, I have a rank 2500 Phoenix that kindly sent me a replay of his own, and this is how 98% of Phoenixes, in my opinion, use the spell. They cast Fire Spirits, they dive in, they make sure the enemies get attack speeds low, and if you place the egg in a good spot, it's probably going to explode and deal a pretty decent amount of damage. GH very rarely uses egg like this though. For me to explain to you why, just watch how much damage Sunray does here. Remember that it not only deals damage, it also heals. Not only this spell is the one with the highest damage ceiling on Phoenix, but it can heal your entire team. The DPS and stun of Supernova are great, but that's not what GH cares about, and I don't think you should be caring that much about it either. Watch this fight. GH approaches the fight with dive, and he starts with Sunray. This not only kills 2 Radiant heroes, but it saves his anti-mage. And after that, he just pops the egg. What a terrible use of egg, right? If Doom didn't stun Oracle there, it wouldn't hit a single hero. But GH very rarely cares about egg stunning anyone. Egg is good because it resets all of the damage and mobility this hero already has. Let's go back to that fight. What if he eggs rather than using Sunray? It's very easy for the Radiant heroes to kill anti-mage and still disengage running towards the top side of the map. Egg deals less damage, it doesn't heal your team, and it puts you in a bad spot. Not in this case, but we will discuss other ones. And sure, maybe you don't believe me, so I'll show you more examples. Let's take this Faceless Void game. Dire is super aggressively positioned on the Irradiant side, and GH gets a great Beam Hammer combo with Icarus Dive while he follows up with Sunray. He pretty much solo kills the Invoker. Then he just waits Fire Spirits and he pops the egg. Pretty terrible Nova again, huh? What you have to internalize about using egg like GH is that Supernova has a huge risk involved. It can kill you even if you are 100% HP when you cast the spell. Why would you ever give the enemy team a chance of killing you with 6 attacks rather than a lot of time spent and a lot of cooldowns being used? There's obviously games where he used egg before Sunray, but they are very far in between. In this clip, for instance, GH drops the egg after he was able to hit people with the Meteor Hammer combo, but it again only hits one target. It's much more about resetting the cooldowns. Against almost every draft, it's going to be hard to prevent your egg from being killed if you just Icarus Dive towards the enemy team. But you can use Sunray for 12 seconds if you just reset the cooldown in situations where you know the egg cannot be killed. That's usually more than enough damage to kill anyone you want to kill, or at least prevent your allies from dying. The times he did egg with 3 or 4 people around him were cases of him being dove rather than him diving towards the enemy team, like we saw the rank 2k Phoenix playing. This is a great play from the Batrider. He actually cancels Icarus Dive, but in a mid-game situation where your respawn timer is gonna be 70% of the cooldown of your egg, it's okay to pop it to buy more time, especially when you have Fire Spirits available. But that's very different from aggressively using egg when you could be using Sunray. Wait a minute, Bowie. You think we're dumb? I remember this clip from your last video and GH does exactly what you told us not to do. You're lying. Well, you're right. He did it. And this is why Dota is beautiful. Everything is more complicated than it looks. In this clip, GH is level 6. This means that his Sunray is worth much less because it's only level 1 at this stage. Also, this early, attack speed low matters more because heroes don't have much of it. They don't attack fast. It is really hard to see GH doing stuff like that once he's level 9+, and when he does, frequently, he is either in a desperate game where he feels the need to get a 5-man egg to even win a fight, or he made a mistake and he dies. Now that we know how to use egg, we can understand what GH does when the spell is not ready to be used. Phoenix is a hero that scales incredibly well with levels. All her talents are crazy good, so you want to farm and deal with waves your team can't, and you're great at that, but as you can see here, When you use Fire Spirits to push a wave, you need to use 2 of them because range creeps and melee creeps almost never are in range to be hit with just 1. And at the end of the day, that's a lot of lost DPS, and that is a reason for Meteor Hammer to be so popular on this hero. But we're gonna talk more about the item later. Basically, whenever Supernova gets used, there's 2 scenarios possible. One is you win a fight with your team, and provided you have Meteor Hammer, you want to group and take towers. But there are times where you just lost the fight or you can't push after the fight is over, and now that spell is on cooldown. That's when GH accelerates his farm by a lot. He finds lanes that are too pushed for a normal core to deal with, or lanes that are dangerous, and he just deals with them thanks to the power of Hammer and Fire Spirits. Since it pushes an entire wave with 1 use, he can use Fire Spirits to farm camps, and that's much more efficient. And after that, he just camps that lane until Egg is ready and his team wants to fight again. That said, as we already talked about, there is no rush for using Egg. Wouldn't you consider using Supernova away from Coil here, where Morph cannot attack it? Well, not GH. And this is a really cool example because, as I said in the beginning, usually you do want to follow your team and use Meteor Hammer, but this is a point in the game where the anti-mage is already really strong and there's a lot of dead heroes, so there's not really a possibility for Egg being used in the next minute pretty much. So he walks mid so that his team can take the tier 2 tower and then migrate mid. But you shouldn't walk away from your team when you only you one target, because if you show in another lane, there's a pretty big chance that they're gonna be engaged and you have Egg and you will not be able to use it. Alright, so I promised talking about this last video why GH buys these 2 items literally every single game, starting with the Meme Hammer. Well, we already showed last video that the Crown build-up has a lot of advantages and Crown builds into Meteor Hammer. On top of that, the mana and HP regen for Meteor Hammer are amazing because you never have to go back base after any fights, and that allows you to scale in levels, and that's all a position for once. On top of all of that, Meteor Hammer has crazy synergy with Phoenix, because you can do stuff like set up traps by using Meteor Hammer and Sunray in an angle, allowing you to teleport from here to another spot, stunning people that expect you to show up where you started. You can stun people and Egg afterwards, making it really hard for them to break the Egg. You can follow up your team with Icarus Dive but still be in a position to either Sunray or Egg without being out of position. You can use your Scepter or the Net to set up Meteor Hammer. You can push dangerous lanes with it and save Fire Spirits in case you're about to smoke or fight. You definitely want to have that spell when a fight begins. You can damage towers, one thing your hero sucks at doing, without putting yourself in danger. You can push waves and damage towers at the same time. Finally, Scepter basically feeds into the playstyle GH has with Phoenix already, which is fighting and farming constantly, all without having to go back base. There's no item that gives 5.5 mana regen for so little gold, and at the same time is a defensive item and offensive because of all the interactions we already showed. Hey guys, just wanted to let you know that if even after the 2 videos you still feel self-conscious about playing or picking Phoenix, you can use this PDF file as a way to guide your games. You can get the link for it in the description for free. If you want more of them, Patreon and YouTube members get access to a list of 25 files, just like this one, with the heroes that I consider to be S-tier dispatch. The list gets updated weekly, and on top of that, you can get a weekly 20-minute video talking about Dota trends that I had no time to make a video yet, patch analysis, and players that are spamming heroes and doing well. You can also just DM me and talk to me, which is pretty cool if you have any questions about the game. This is a great way to not feel like artisan pubs, because playing a smaller pool of great heroes will give you much more confidence, especially when I teach you when to pick them. Guys, thank you so much for watching, commenting, and subscribing. Making these videos takes a ton of work, so if you want to watch more content like this, make sure to ring that bell so you know exactly when it's coming. If you want a more premium experience than my Meta Aficionado tier on Patreon, you can DM me on Twitter to get the info about my coaching. If you want to see me play or cast Dota 2, you can follow me on Twitch. If you just got back to Dota because of COVID-19 or the Compendium, make sure to join our Discord channel. It's full of people from all over the world, and I'm sure you can find a Dota partner to make your pubs more enjoyable. And finally, if you want to support the channel, check our Patreon.